Hello, I am Muftaf Nabila Abdullahi. Welcome to AM Sports on the AM Show. For the first time in 20 years, a sitting president has hosted victims of the May 9 disaster. We also share stories with you on how the Ghana Football Association has presented a budget to the Ministry of Youth and Sports, saying that they want to hold what they call intermittent camping of national teams. Also, we'll be sharing stories with you from the Boteman site that we visited. What are people saying about it? First, let's start with what the president of the country has done to the victims of the May 9 disaster. President Nana Akufo-Addo has promised his administration will support these victims of the May 9 disaster that claimed the lives of 127 football fans at the Accra Sports Stadium. On its 20th anniversary, former Chief Executive Officer of Asante Kotoko, Herbert Mensah, led a delegation to the Jubilee House as he continued his efforts to alleviate the distress the disaster had on families. My colleague, Tasari Bidiakon, has the rest of the story.
Herbert Mensah, who was Chief Executive Officer of Kumasi Asante Kotoko at the time of the May 9 stadium disaster, has been the lead for the yearly national commemoration and charity activities in the last 20 years. The Ghana Rugby president founded the May 9 Charity Foundation to provide financial and material support for families of the victims of the 2001 tragedy and also to engage in public advocacy for proper football administration and safety standards at match centers. Executives of the May 9 Foundation and family members of the victims of the disaster paid a courtesy call on President Akufo-Addo at the Jubilee House on Monday.
In 20 years, this is the first time that the President of the Republic has recognized what it is that we're doing. In 20 years, Mr. President, you're the first president to spend time from a very busy schedule. We understand the affairs of state. We understand the difficulties of being in COVID, difficulties in trying to resuscitate things in this very difficult time, which many people perhaps do not understand, but we do. And we appreciate even the few minutes of your time. And so therefore it is critical that I make mention of our gratitude that after 20 years we have finally found a president who actually cares. And I know that those who've come from Kumasi and from elsewhere, those who are shedding a tear beside me right now, recognize that. Many were not at the stadium. They did not even know their loved ones were there. And so some of them we had to recount to them. As we visited them at the house, when I first came to their homes, they were in a state of shock. And 20 years on, it's interesting to see how they have developed. Some are still crying here today, Mr. President. But I think the tears are also tears not only of missing their loved ones, but understanding that at a time where a president told us not to be spectators but to be involved, there are people here who have been involved.
President Akufo-Addo thanked the founders of the May 9 Charity Foundation for championing the cause of families of victims.
Tragedies of this sort can only be commemorated and remembered because people decide that they will not allow people to forget it. So those of you who have taken the trouble to perpetuate the memory of those who were caught up in this tragedy and have now grouped yourself into the May 9th Foundation, you deserve the warm applause and commendation of the entire nation of Ghana. I'm intrigued by the idea that today that the May 9th Foundation is beyond football. You put it beyond football, that you have embraced a wider social space involving dislocations, floods, dislocations of people in their lives. This is a huge undertaking, and you need a lot of courage and capacity to be able to carry it out well. You will have the modest support that this administration will be able to give you. I can promise you that.
127 football fans lost their lives during a Ghana Premier League game involving sworn rivals Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko at the Accra Sports Stadium on May 9, 2001. It remains one of the continent's biggest football tragedies.